Hey everybody. Hey everybody. This is Rob and Jordan of Archangel Inc. And we are back again for live number 10. Jordan, how are you doing tonight?
What's up, guys? Yeah, I'm doing great. I can't believe we're already at 10. It's crazy.
Yes,
Time does obviously pass by fast, but it just seems like we just started this last week and we've done 10 already. So it's cool. We're going
I
to
know.
keep going too.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. So tonight's topic is a spooky, scary topic, and it is ghostwriting.
Yep.
So I realized
Get ready for it.
I know. I realized in retrospect, Jordan, that we should have done this around Halloween time. In fact, maybe even on Halloween, because I think we were doing a live on
Yeah.
that day. But that's okay.
Would have made a lot more sense. That's okay.
It would have made more sense. I agree.
Happy Thanksgiving. We're getting spooky. Whatever. It works.
That's true. Yeah, we're coming up, man.
Yep.
It's
Next week.
Next week is Thanksgiving. To be determined, everybody out there, whether we will have a live video on that day. We may just be celebrating and enjoying the holiday, but to be determined. So, Jordan, you proposed this ghostwriting topic, and I thought it was really good because it's a question that we get from time to time, and we have done ghostwriting. It is something that we offer, and I will preface this by saying, in some cases there are NDAs, so I can't disclose, precisely who or what we may have worked on in terms of ghostwriting, but that's pretty typical for that genre. All that said, we can certainly talk in generalities and maybe in some anonymized particulars as appropriate. But you proposed the topic and had some thoughts, so I will leave the floor to you to get things going here.
Yeah, we'll jump right in by, answering a question that I was thinking of while you were talking right there, is that not everyone may know what NDA is. And I may not, I don't think I knew probably even a year ago, like, what does that mean?
Right.
So non-disclosure agreement.
Right.
And that's huge when it comes to ghostwriting, because one of the questions is, do I get to say that I wrote this? You kind of already prefaced that by saying, I can't tell you who we did this on, what books we might have worked on. Right. If you sign an NDA, you may not be able to disclose to anybody that you worked on that person's book, because the whole idea of ghostwriting is that you are the spooky ghost behind the scenes, and you're not getting credit for it, but the author, or in this case maybe not author, because they're paying you to write the book, but whoever's paying you for that service of writing the book is then taking the credit. And it's an interesting thing. It's something that's like, what is it about that? Is that something I might want to look into? And that's why we wanted to raise the topic tonight, because I think it's a good one to talk about, not only because we offer that as a service, but people watching this may have heard of ghostwriting, and then just really kind of had questions as to what all it is about.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's a good jumping off point. I remember the first time I ever encountered the idea of a ghostwriter was probably actually 20, maybe 25 years ago. And I was a pro wrestling fan growing up. I really enjoyed that. And one of the pro wrestlers that I was a fan of was a guy named Mick Foley. And he put out a book and it was called "Have a Nice Day," which was one of his catchphrases. And he had various characters, one of which was kind of a crazy person. And so it was almost Joker-like, and, have a nice day. And, anyway, he wrote a book, and I bought it. And one of the things that he said from the outset is most professional, how should I say this? Most public figures, people who are in professional limelight in some capacity, aren't actually writing their own book. They're getting ghostwriters. And one of the things that he said that distinguished him was he actually really enjoyed writing, enjoyed the craft of writing, and then he actually wrote it himself. Now he had a team, he had an editor, and whatever other group around him helping, but he was the one actually putting finger to keyboard and putting it out. I thought, that's kind of interesting. But yeah, most of the books that you see out there from politicians, from public figures, from entertainers, from athletes, they're probably going to have some degree of ghostwriting. Now, maybe one of the more famous examples is the autobiography of Malcolm X with Alex Haley, I think. And right there in the byline, it's acknowledged that basically Malcolm X was telling his story to Alex Haley. And, he was kind of building the narrative around it. He was taking these various anecdotes and putting it into something that was autobiographical. It was, written in the first person, but he was helping with the storytelling aspects of it and identifying, kind of the salient elements that were going to hopefully resonate with his readers, with the people who are interested in reading, the story. But lots of other times that's not the case. You might have, any politician that you might think of, or any person that's putting together, some of these memoirs or that kind of thing. Usually they have, again, a ghostwriter behind them. And in this case, in the case of a self-publisher, one of the things that we try and do, and the way that I think about it, and you can share how you think about it, Jordan, is you hire a team, you get somebody around you, and maybe they're not the one actually putting pen to paper or finger to keyboard, but it's their story and they're overseeing the process. And at least as it works with us, they're getting approval, they're getting the chance to vet it. And we have described the editing process as being, you're the singer and we're your backup singers. We're helping that message and that story and that voice come through stronger and more powerfully than you might be able to do on your own. And I think of ghostwriting as just an elevated version of that, an enhanced version of that, where again, you may not be the one that's putting pen to paper, but it's your story. You're the one that's kind of shaping the direction of where it's going, and you're providing the meaningful content behind it, so that it's going to reflect your artistry, your craft, your professional field, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish with your goal, that it's going to do a good job of communicating all of that. So that was a couple of minutes worth of comments, but feel free to jump in and share what you think about ghostwriting and general understanding of it and sentiments around it.
I just wanted to, I think another, good question as far as ghostwriting is it something do I need to do it? Do I want to look into getting those services? And I think we talk a lot here about doing what you're good at, the whole concept of staying in your lane, doing what you do best. And maybe you aren't a writer. Maybe you can write to the point where you can get something down and have a really good editor look at that. Sometimes the lines between editing and ghostwriting can be blurred as far as, just adjusting your content. But say you're just like, you know what, I'm not a writer. I know that I don't want to sit down at a computer for hours at a time and just type out words. I would much rather, do a video interview with someone, or just kind of type out a quick outline and say, hey, this is what I'm looking my book to be. Is there any way you can accomplish this? Can you make it, into a reality? And that's really if you're looking at something like that, if you're saying, hey, I really, maybe you have a story to tell, maybe you want to write your fiction book, maybe that you have in your mind that you wouldn't get done otherwise. Or maybe you want to write your memoir and I have a really cool story to tell, but man, I don't have the time or the skills or just the desire to write it out myself, but I would like to have that finished product. Or you're, a very busy business person, and you have a company and you say, hey, I want a book as a business card, but I don't want to take the time and figure out all the details surrounding getting a book done. Those are all, there's several others, of course, but those are just some ideas as far as who might want ghostwriting services. But it's just, we just wanted to share, the concept behind, just thinking about, do you need a ghostwriter or not? And maybe if you, you enjoy talking on video, there may be some people out there that just they can voice what they need to voice over video or audio a lot better than actually typing it out. So that's just something to consider as far as ghostwriting goes. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's, I mean, there may be others for whom there are, physical limitations. Maybe you have an injury or a disability of some sort, and you are just physically unable to actually type and edit and do that kind of thing. So having some sort of assistance, whether you're recording it into a live interview or you're just telling your story, into a microphone, somebody else is transcribing it, and then we're translating it or whatever. There are lots of ways in which ghostwriting can be used, can be taken advantage of, and can benefit you. Now, you mentioned, Jordan, the busy professional and the person who really maybe just doesn't has a story in them but doesn't know how to get going. I would say that's kind of what we tend to specialize in. The other one is the outline. You have an idea for a book. There's maybe you're a regular content creator and you have a series of ideas and you're creating a something in a particular field. We've mentioned before, like diet books, and you have an outline of, okay, I want to really address the essential vitamins and nutrient and minerals here, and then you've got another book where you're addressing, protein, and meal timing or something like that. And then you have an outline like, here are the things that I want to put together, and here are the things I want to touch on. And again, maybe you were doing hopefully some of that market research. You are seeing what questions people are asking. What's the state of the research today, in terms of your field, and what are the niches that you can occupy that are going to be distinctive and help your book stand out. And so you put all of that together, and you build that into your outline. And then maybe you have a ghostwriter or, a custom book writer. I mean, and we can talk about the distinction between those two shortly, at least as it relates to how we conceptualize things. Just have at it. And, and then afterward you have something, and some people find that their editor brain and their adjuster and tweaker, abilities are a lot better than their actual initial content creation, and so for those folks, it can be really good too. And you can have somebody actually kind of do the writing for you and put it together, and then you go and you adjust and you make it sound more like you, or make it convey it in the way that is exactly what you're envisioning. And it's nice to have that initial content creation handled for you, and makes the rest of the process easier.
And real quick, I'll just share, we do that on the team here. I'm not someone that, I don't like to go back through and edit and proofread. But Christy on our team will go back through. I'll create the initial content. She's like, I'll fix it up from there. And she always makes it look really good. And I just think that's just an added benefit of knowing your skills, knowing where you want. For me, just knowing I don't do as well on a second read through or a third read through, because I get to the point where I'm like, I'm done with this. Let's move on. Right. And then, but I like the initial stage. I like coming up with those ideas and getting something typed out. So just, again, figuring out where you're at with that is an important step to figuring out if you need a ghostwriter or not.
Right.
But yeah, Rob, I'd love to hear the difference between the two. I think you said ghostwriting and custom book writing. I don't know the difference between them.
Yeah. So ghostwriting is sort of the all-encompassing term, and that's what we're using here. I would say most of what we do these days is custom book writing. And the distinction between that and standard ghostwriting is as follows. So with typical ghostwriting, it would be kind of that outline. Hey, here's a topic. Here's what I want to talk about. Here's a dozen bullet points, a dozen chapter headings, and I'm looking for this many words. And then we assign it to a writer, and the writer goes and they do some research. Maybe you provide some research cues, a handful of books to look into, websites, research papers, that kind of thing. Say, hey, make sure that this is incorporated in as you're doing your research, and you pull from that, and then that's it. At the end, you have a completed manuscript that you can adjust from, and either publish or tweak or whatever you want. But basically that's it. There's not a whole lot of back and forth in the process. And, it's kind of, here's what I want. And you assign, basically it's like an editor at a newspaper giving an assignment to somebody. And then from there, maybe they say, okay, we want to tweak a couple of things and we'll fix them, some of the elements, but the writing portion for the most part is done. And it's not really coming from your voice. It's mainly coming from research and the direction that you give at the outset. Custom writing, in contrast, is much more customized. It's much more suitable for people who are kind of thought leaders in their field, who have distinct and new information. They're not just talking about, what are the principles of ketogenic dieting. They're talking about, like, for example, one of our authors, Jay Campbell, he has the metabolic blowtorch diet, which we helped publish. And, it's a particular approach that combines a number of different meal timing and nutrient timing strategies. And, it's much more kind of state of the art. It's so for people who are thought leaders in their field. Another example would be someone like Cassie Sobelton, who we mentioned last week. Now, I will say, Cassie did not have us ghostwrite. I can, I'm not disclosing anything. There's no NDA.
People were wondering that, I'm sure.
Right.
Wait a second.
There's no NDA.
What about the NDA?
Right. There's no NDA that I'm violating there. Cassie created the content all on her own, and we were very happy and pleased to be able to participate and contribute to it. But she's kind of a thought leader in her field. She's doing something that not a lot of other people are doing, and so she's somebody who's putting together that original voice and that original material, and she is making it distinctly her own. So someone like that who, there's no place to research. If you're really on the cutting edge like that, you don't have resources to direct them to. You're actually creating the book that somebody else will be researching when they're, filling out the field and contributing more to the particular genre that you're a part of. The other aspect of the custom book writing process that is collaborative is that usually it's done in smaller segments. So we'll record a video for a couple of blocks at a time, a couple of chapters maybe, then we'll have it transcribed, and then the writer will get to translating that into a story, into a narrative, into something cohesive that is going to build on itself over time throughout the course of the book. And that is really in the author's voice. The author gets, after every couple of chapters, a chance to go through it and really make sure that it sounds like them, because we're working from recorded material, from transcribed material, and the author and the writer are collaborating and doing these recorded interviews, and they have an opportunity to kind of get to know each other. The writer, because they're usually doing these, via either audio or video, if there are clarifying points or if things go off in a direction that the writer wasn't familiar with or wasn't expecting, there's an opportunity immediately to kind of go down that rabbit hole and, oh, okay, that was interesting. You mentioned here, such and such. Can you expand on that? What do you mean by that? The nice thing about that as well is when you're dealing with thought leadership kind of material and you have an informed and intelligent but not expert level writer, they have a good bridge to usually the lay audience, the people that you're looking to speak to. This isn't a technical manual for other people who are already technical experts in many cases. It's more of something that's going to reach a wider audience. And so, helping to clarify and get on the same page with somebody who may not be familiar with all of the inside terminology or any industry jargon that's out there can be really helpful. And so you have an opportunity to do some of that side research and go down those kind of rabbit holes, get some clarity, and then build that into the structure and the foundation of what you're producing for a wider audience. After that, chapter or two, the author takes a look at it, reviews it, makes any adjustments. The writer will use those adjustments to inform how they approach the next block that they're working on, whether that's a stylistic adjustment or, technical adjustments. Maybe they misunderstood something. Maybe it is a technical field and there are aspects to, the content that, were not clear to begin with. So you adjust that and make sure that things are in order going forward. And you kind of just do that in sequential blocks. Now, it does require a little bit more work on the part of the author because it is a little bit more collaborative. But what comes out tends to be really high quality, really sounds like the author, it is very much in their voice, but it's been the metaphor I'm thinking, you're just kind of scooping out the insides of their mind and and you're putting it out in a very easy to digest platter for for the target audience to read. And at the end, hopefully it's going to accomplish what you're looking to accomplish without you having to actually put those put that pen to paper and work on a skill set that may not be really where your bread and butter is.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
I like it. So my next question, I know other people who are going to be watching this video are thinking cost. What is the cost of ghostwriting services? I did a little research myself into this, and I'm sure probably more than I do about costs and what's associated with that. And of course, it depends. But from what I looked at, projects can range anywhere from, let's say, $5,000 to maybe even $100,000. And the range exists because maybe that person, that $5,000 project is maybe a shorter book. Maybe it's someone that's just trying to work on their skills as a writer and says, hey, I haven't done this before. I'd love to work on your budget and kind of write this book for you as a ghostwriter. And then you have ranges all the way up to 100,000 where maybe there's authors out there that, don't want to take on the marketing piece for another book. Maybe they already have their own stream of income and their own books that they're writing, and they already have their own audience. And you say, hey, I want to write something different, but I don't want to filter that into my audience. But then they can show that to the person that wants their book done. And if they want their book done, by someone that has a history and a record of writing a really good book, could raise the cost there as well. And I know some people do it by project, so that's the project range. I know there's also per word ranges. I think it really just depends on what you're looking at. But I think at the end of the day, recognizing that ghostwriting is an extensive process, and it's not something, if you want a good quality product, it's not something you're going to get, let's say, for a couple $100. A couple $100 if you're writing a blog post, maybe that's very reasonable. But if you're thinking about anywhere from a short length book to a full length novel, you're looking at a pretty heavy cost there. But I'll let you answer what your thoughts are on that too, Rob.
Yeah. Well, first off, I'm glad that you mentioned novels. Novels in general are going to be a lot longer, require a lot more time and energy. And, especially if you are really working in a collaborative way with a high quality ghostwriter, it's going to take some time, and you should anticipate a fairly significant expense. Now, I will mention, that $5,000 to potentially $100,000 range, I think is reasonable. And again, we're talking about those $100,000 books. I imagine there's probably more. When such and such entertainer, when Brad Pitt, has his memoir written. You're attracting the top talent in the world, and people who are going to be able to absolutely overperform and deliver to the highest, most exacting standards, because this is something that this very powerful and successful person has a lot riding on. The consequences of Joe or Jane average, self-publishing author putting something out there that's maybe not quite the best that they could do, and maybe has some errors, some omissions, some typos, that kind of thing. It stinks, but it's probably not career threatening. But for somebody in a pretty high profile position, it could be. And so those are going to be those very premier projects. The other thing is the other initial thought that I had. There are definitely sort of low tier options. I mean, there are some folks out there that are going to put together books, starting at like a penny a word or something, and so then you have a 10,000 word book that's a penny a word. What's that? $100 for and right. So I don't know how I've seen some of those projects. In fact, we had one author that we worked with who worked with I would say not top tier ghostwriter, and they had there were issues, and we really felt bad actually, as it turns out. This one author had just large sections of their book plagiarized, and we learned it just with a basic plagiarization check. And so somebody that you're paying $100 to write 10,000 words, are they really going to put a lot of time and effort into it if they can just pull a block of 1,000 words, from some blog post or some research paper that they found online and barely tweak it? Then maybe they will. So that's another thing to think about when you're determining your budget and figuring out who you want to work with. Is there integrity? Is there a quality of high standard and good quality behind it, that that you're not going to be accidentally plagiarizing something and potentially exposing yourself legally to consequences that could be much more costly than the money that you save by hiring this low cost option. So all of that said, there are lots of different ranges of offerings out there. Ghostwriting in general is going to be a fairly costly process if you want to have it done and done well. Because if you think about it, who do you want writing your book? If you're paying somebody to write it, you want somebody who knows how to write a book, right? And somebody who knows how to write a book is presumably good at their craft. They value themselves. Other people value themselves. They have something that they bring to the market that's unique and distinctive and going to fetch some sort of premium. And you may be lucky, just like anything. You may find somebody that, so to speak, on their rookie contracts who they're building their portfolio and they are working to become better at their craft. They might be really good, but they're still kind of a little bit rough around the edges and building that up. But you can work with that. Maybe you get 80% of the value for 20% of the price, and that's and that's fine. If
Yeah.
you can find it, the trouble is just vetting it. And that's the best recommendation that I can give for that is to research them, have conversations with them, talk to them about the scope, the nature of what you're thinking, see what sort of, to the extent that they're able to, see examples of what they've produced before. Again, there may be NDAs, there may be, privacy concerns. So they may not be able to disclose all of that, but, any public content that they have out there, take a look, see if it's something that jives with you and is something that can really help. The other thing that we offer, that we try to bring value with our custom writing packages, our ghostwriting packages, is we try and make the whole process really comprehensive. So there are people out there who are really excellent authors and are writers, and they'll create a fantastic manuscript. But then you're still stuck in the same position that you might be if you had written the book yourself, which is still probably want some editing. You still probably want an additional round of proofreading. Still going to need to actually help publish it. The design work, whether that's interior or exterior design, the formatting for the various different platforms, and then assistance with maybe audiobook production and marketing. All of which are things that you may or may not be interested, but you will and may not have access to the means to do yourself. So having somebody there to assist with it can be an asset, and that's part of how we bring value to the process. Not only do we work with you every step of the way to produce a book that is going to read well, going to be authoritative and sound like you without you having to roll up your sleeves and do all the work yourself, but we're also going to help with the rest of that publishing experience. So that from the creation all the way up to when it's live and hopefully selling lots and lots of copies, and you have good ad campaigns and anything else that you have going on, you've got that support behind it.
Yeah. Final note on the cost wise, I just want to reiterate, definitely do your due diligence in, when you find a deal, if you're looking at having someone ghostwrite for you, ask other people, ask other authors, ask for, people that, hey, can you just read this contract or whatever it is real quick? Am I getting a good deal? Just ask those questions. If you are spending a lot less, it's good to do your due diligence and ask the questions that we were just talking about. What is the reason it's being done for cheaper? Is it going to be potentially plagiarized? And there are definitely some good reasons, like we discussed. Rob was saying, if someone is that just kind of getting their feet wet with it, maybe they are a nonfiction author and they're like, hey, I want to jump into the fiction writing. I haven't done this before. Maybe they'll be like, that's reasonable. That's a reasonable, reason to, be working on a ghostwriting book for a cheaper option for it. But just do your due diligence, ask other people, before you commit to anything. I mean, I think that's good advice and feedback for anything, but especially obviously when you're looking at a bigger project that's more time intensive, you want to find the right person.
Right. Yep.
So do you have anything more to say about cost, Rob? I had one more question I wanted us to answer.
Yeah, no, nothing else on cost. Please go on ahead.
Cool. Really just wanted to, so for me, the final question was, okay, yeah, we've thought about ghostwriting. We've gotten to the point, maybe you're thinking about it. Maybe you're like, hey, I'm going to do this. Where can you go to do that? So there are a lot of self-publishing services companies out there like Archangel Inc. that can do the ghostwriting and as you were speaking, the custom book writing process. But you can find ghostwriters in a variety of places. I know Reedsy, which is REEDSESY, Reedsy.com they have a whole list of vetted people, vetted ghostwriters that have experience with other books, and they have profiles on there. So definitely look at that if you're looking at, if you're looking at just weighing your options, seeing what costs are. You can find freelancers that do work on sites like Upwork. That's one that you can potentially check out for ghostwriting services. But just do your due diligence with those. Again, just typing in ghostwriting online. I did that the other day just to kind of see what came up. And you'll see Google ads for ghostwriting services, entire 100,000 word books for $1,200. And you'll see those. And then it's very enticing. And that can kind of, and that's where that cost association can be difficult. After you've seen that $1,200 on Google, you're like, well, that's potentially a baseline in my mind already. This guy is potentially wanting to charge me $25,000 to complete my book. That's crazy, but not necessarily, because you're comparing it to maybe not the most reputable company. Now, I don't know about those companies. Maybe, again, they have good reasons for being able to offer services for so cheap. Maybe they have a variety of ghostwriters. Whatever the case may be, just don't set your bar for what you can potentially see when you just type that search in Google. I just wanted to mention that because I saw that the other day. But yeah, just you can find the services. Just make sure you do your due diligence and vet those services. And as always, if you have questions, the same with at any part of the process, if you're wondering, even if it's not with us, reach out to us. Rob and I are happy to help and answer questions to the best of our ability and say, hey, I haven't heard of that company, but maybe someone else we know has heard of them and has gone through them. So, again, just make sure you're asking the people that may have more familiarity with that before you move forward. We're never the people that we talked about this. We're not going to give you the hard sell and say, well, if you don't go with us for ghostwriting, like that's it. You're dead.
You might as well never publish.
Yeah. Don't even bother, ever writing again.
Right.
No, we're not that way. We wanted to make sure, just to give you the best value that we can. We're obviously not trying to turn away business, but at the same time, we want to be just approachable and be able to answer those questions for you.
Right. And just another thought on the cost aspect of it, just like anything, if you're really good at your job and you want, and somebody else that you're working with is really good at their job, you want them to be able to support themselves. And, it's really hard to support yourself. I would imagine, putting together 100,000 word books for $1,200 because, let's say you are still, you're able to write 1,000 words an hour. Who knows? But let's say 1,000 words an hour, and that's finished, like totally edited, clean, ready to go, ready to publish. 100,000 word book, that's 100 hours, and you're working basically at that point for $12 an hour, which is in many places not even minimum wage. And so, do you want somebody doing minimum wage work on it, or do you want somebody who is maybe going to actually be able to hone their craft? Get the tools and the rest and the leisure, and have be able to afford a lifestyle that allows them to really work on this craft and build their, artistic capacity, or somebody who, is thinking, well, maybe I have to pick up a second shift at, the local grocery store because, this isn't, I don't have the time. I'm stretched too thin already. And, so you want to value the people that you're working with, and obviously you have we all have budgets, and not everybody can afford to spend $100,000, even $5,000 on their ghostwriting project. Yeah. So in our case, what we try and do is offer resources and tools and direct people in the right way so that they can produce things again with that sweat equity that they have. They're longer on time and motivation and passion than they are on discretionary income. Yep. And so, they hopefully can learn enough that they can bring value, create that value on their own that will in turn reap some sort of return, down the line once they finish creating the, their finished product. But yeah, again, as you mentioned, Jordan, we're not going to do the hard sell. If folks have questions about ghostwriting, if even if you want to literally get on the phone with us and say, hey guys, you're out of my budget, but I was thinking about doing X, Y, and Z. I was wondering if you knew anything about them and can you direct me, maybe in a helpful way. We'll do our best, and then we'll try and give you questions to ask, as you're vetting them yourself, and try and help you tease out, well, what's your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? What is it that you're looking to do? What's your end goal? What's your finish line? And what can you do to help get there? And what can we kind of direct you toward to help you get there? Yep. Cool. Word.
I mean, that's all I had on ghostwriting. As always, if you guys have any other questions, definitely let us know. But did you have anything else to say on that one, Rob?
No, I'm good on ghostwriting. I did want to mention one other thing. We had a comment on YouTube, and this was a couple of weeks ago on the what trim size should I print my book? And so I want to address that. And folks, if you leave questions in YouTube on YouTube for us, we'll do our best to address them in either the comments or on a future video. Yep. But this person says, thanks for the info. I am a new indie author writing my first children's book. Geared towards 6 to 10-year-olds. I found a great illustrator, but this illustrator doesn't do digital art. She does watercolor with ink. I'm looking at 32 to 40 page count, square shape, most likely 8.5 by 8.5. I'm confused by the margins. How big should she make her illustrations? Then once I receive her illustrations, I'm assuming she or I can scan in a high resolution and add digital text to her drawing on Ingram Spark. Thanks for any information. So there's a lot of thoughts there. I will leave it to you, Jordan, if you want to share anything first, and then I can jump in and try and unpack some of that, because there are a couple of different things that I'm thinking of in reply.
Yeah, I'd say you go ahead and shoot. I mean, I'm not the expert with putting that stuff together. Formatting questions for me, I always tend to be like, I'm not sure. I could point you to some resources. But yeah, that's kind of outside of my expertise just a little bit. But I mean, if you have something.
Sure. Yeah. So, okay. 8.5 by 8.5. That sounds about right to me based on some of the children's books that I've seen. I would say, as we've mentioned before, in the what trim size should I use? Video, and I think we've addressed it on some of these live chats. See what the genre convention is for your competitors. What book are you trying to look like, and what books are you trying to stand alongside of, and then try and imitate at least the general parameters that they're offering. In terms of watercolor art, yeah, you can certainly just get a high quality scanner and scan that yourself. You'll probably want to digitally manipulate it. Certainly KDP Print and Ingram, they're not going to take a stapled, mailed in notebook and then do the translation yourself so that you can turn it into a bound book. Once I receive that, so should I add digital text onto the drawings? Yeah, potentially. I mean, that's up to you. There are various different image manipulation programs out there. Photoshop is obviously the industry standard. There is GIMP, GNU Image Manipulation Project, which is sort of an open source version of Photoshop. There's an online one. Was it Canva that you use? So that's another one that you could potentially make use of. And so in terms of the technical specifications, you'll have to check, KDP Print and Ingram Spark. They have their parameters laid out, in terms of, particular margins. If there's going to be a bleed or not, that's going to affect it. What the resolution of the scanned images needs to be. In general, I think 300 DPI or higher is recommended. I was going
to ask you about that. I know there was a certain,
So that's generally pretty good. But if you're doing full color and, it's going to be some beautiful handmade art, you might even go higher. It may not all translate directly to the printer, but having a higher quality source file to begin with is certainly going to help. You can always go down, but it's hard to go up in quality afterwards. So, whatever you can do on that front would be good. And you mentioned in Ingram, I don't, as far as I'm aware, Ingram Spark does not have a like an on-screen display where you can kind of add text to it. At one time, I think maybe even KDP Print does offer an option for, their own sort of standard cover, like it's a cover template, and then you can just type words on top of it. Ingram Spark may have something similar, when they say, okay, it's going to be 8.5 by 8.5, and here's your 8 or 10 different colors that you can pick, and here's your 5 different background pictures that you can pick, or something like that. Probably don't want to utilize that, even if it were an option, if you're doing something like this with custom watercolor illustrations or paintings. So the main thing you want to do, figure out what platform you want to exist on. And we have some videos talking about the different platforms that are out there. KDP Print, CreateSpace, which is now defunct, no longer an option, but Ingram Spark is another one. There's Lulu. There are local printers. Just do your research, figure out what makes sense for you. And I think that's about it. We've
and if you want, just a note there too, Rob. This commenter may have already known this, but if you want a hardcover version of the children's book, you're going to have to go on Ingram Spark to do that. KDP Print does not have hardcover. Most people do. If they're going to do a hardcover, they'll go to Ingram Spark. I think, and the other ones you mentioned. But just to note there that KDP Print, as of right now, as of this video, only does paperback.
Correct. Yep. Great add-on and important to know. At some point, maybe they'll start offering it. I think that.
Yeah, I hope so. But
that would be cool. It would certainly make things a lot simpler for a lot of authors and their account management and that kind of thing. But we'll see. We'll see what KDP decides to do, what Amazon decides to do. But all that said, thank you, Love Faith, for offering that comment. And anybody else who has comments on this video or any others, I will do my best to check them on a rolling basis. And again, either reply there or in a future video on these live videos. So feel free to comment on this or anything. And I think I am all good for tonight. Was there anything else you wanted to share, Jordan?
I'm good.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your night. Take care. Right. And